the deep dive gets stuck right into the plumbing today, because the plumbing is where the money is. The headline news, as you have likely seen screamed across every property broadsheet this morning, is that the government has finally blinked. The quote, kicking and screaming phase is over, and the reality phase has begun. The unworkable deadlines have been scrapped in favor of a single hard deadline, October 1st, 2030. But to view this merely as a delay is to miss the structural shift occurring beneath the floorboards. The government hasn't just moved the goalposts, they have fundamentally changed the physics of the game, creating the single greatest regulatory arbitrage opportunity of the next decade. We call it the Validity Lock-In. Currently, we measure energy efficiency using the Standard Assessment Procedure, or SAP 2012. SAP is largely a cost-based metric. It loves a gas boiler. The government is moving to the Home Energy Model, or HEM. HEM is a simulation, looking at carbon intensity in physics, designed for a net zero world. This creates a metric trap. A property compliant as a C today under SAP could instantly become a non-compliant D under M, even if you haven't touched a single brick. But here is the loophole, and it is a big one. Buried in the guidance is a crucial confirmation. EPCs generated before October 1st, 2029 will remain valid for their full 10-year lifespan. If you secure an EPC C in September 2029 using the current gas-friendly SAP metrics, that certificate is valid until 2039. You have effectively bought yourself a decade of immunity. The smart play isn't to wait for 2030, it's the great SAP Arbitrage of 2029. The assessment industry will collapse under this demand if you leave it until late 2029. The other fascinating structural shift is the money. Let's talk about the liability cap and the valuation cliff edge. The government has capped the landlord's liability at £10,000. This is a victory, but there is a sting in the tail for lower value properties. For properties valued under £100,000, the cap is 10% of the property value. Be careful how rich you want your portfolio to look on paper, as downvaluing assets might save you money on insulation. Finally, we have to talk about the fabric first policy. The government says they want insulation first, heat pumps second. This sounds sensible. Insulation lasts 50 years. Heat pumps break in 15. But this mandate actually gives landlords a perfect excuse to avoid the green tech the government loves. If you spend your £10,000 cap on insulation and still haven't reached a C, you stop and register an exemption. The cap is exhausted by plasterboard, leaving nothing for heat pumps. So what happens now? The amateurs are panicking, but the professional sees a molehill. You have 4 years to plan, a hard cap on costs, and an arbitrage window. The trade is to buy D stock at a discount, spend the capped amount to get it to a C before 2029, and sell it to a pension fund in 2031, capitalizing on their ESG mandates. The planet might not get saved, but the portfolio will be. Buckle up. It's going to be a messy decade. The golden quarter property panic, why amateurs are selling and professionals are buying. We're diving deep into market psychology, because markets aren't moved by spreadsheets. They are moved by fear and greed. And right now we are seeing a masterclass in both. If we understand the mechanics of the new EPC regime, this segment is about the incentives. Why are people doing what they are doing? We are currently sitting in what we call the golden quarter. It's not just a date on a calendar, it's a behavioral economic event. This specific window is between January 2026 and May 2026. It is the final flush of the amateur landlord, before the Renters' Rights Act locks the door on Section 21 evictions. The game theory here is fascinating. Let's look at the amateur's panic, which represents the loser. The dinner party landlord, the guy with 2 flats, reads the headlines. He sees a wall of cost and regulation, and he panics. We are seeing a surge in listing volumes that looks like a fire sale, driven by emotional distress, not financial distress. He is selling to get out before the perceived trapdoor slams shut. Now let's look at the professional's arbitrage, which represents the winner. The professional investor looks at the exact same data and sees something completely different. They see certainty. The liability is capped at £10,000. It is a line item, a known cost of doing business. Next, let's address the green premium myth and the return on investment. The great lie is that this retrofit work pays for itself through higher rents. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The professional knows this. They are upgrading for survival and liquidity, not yield. They need to ensure they can sell to an institutional buyer later, which requires meeting ESG mandates. Finally, we have to look at the table. Who played their hand best? The political poker game. Ben Beadle and the NRLA played a blinder. They argued against operational feasibility, showing the supply chain doesn't exist, securing a delay and a lower cap. Is the tenant a winner? The £15 billion cost of this plan will be amortized into rents. In a supply-constrained market, the end user always pays. So buckle up. The rules are set. The amateurs are leaving, transferring wealth to the professionals, driven entirely by regulatory fatigue. If you are staying in the game, the next 6 months are the most important buying window of the decade. The thing about government policy is that it usually achieves the exact opposite of what the press release says it will do. We call this the law of unintended consequences, but in the UK housing market, it is practically a constitutional requirement. And today's winner is the Fabric First mandate. On paper, it sounds sensible, like a laundry detergent slogan or a philosophy for buying a bespoke suit. The idea is that before you install shiny tech, like heat pumps or solar, you must insulate the walls, floor, and roof. You wrap the house in a tea cozy. Why? Because a heat pump works at a lower flow temperature. If you put one in a drafty Victorian terrace without insulation, it works about as well as a chocolate teapot. But here is the cynical genius of the new regulations. By mandating Fabric First, the government has handed every landlord in the country a get-out-of-jail-free card to avoid buying the one thing they desperately want them to buy, a heat pump. Here is the math. You have a £10,000 spending cap. To meet Fabric First in a solid brick terrace, you need internal wall insulation. The cost for insulation work, including plastering, repainting, and moving electrics, easily hits £8,000 to £12,000. So you spend the money, hit the cap, and are now exempt. You do not have to install the heat pump. The policy ensures the budget is exhausted before the heat pump can ever be ordered. The heat pump industry is going to be furious. But it gets better, or worse, depending on whether you are the tenant. While one department screams, "Make it airtight," another demands action on damp and mold. Mold is caused by moisture hitting cold surfaces. The Fabric First approach encourages sealing up drafts for a better EPC score. So we are legally mandating landlords to turn their Victorian properties into Tupperware boxes? And when the inevitable mold appears, the government will fine the landlord. So what is the play? The smart money embraces Fabric First. You spend your capped £10,000 on things that actually add asset value, like new glazing and decent insulation. These things last 50 years. You use the insulation costs to hit the exemption threshold, keep the reliable gas boiler that tenants understand, and secure your EPC C. Ed Miliband gets to say he has a warm homes plan, and the Treasury capped the costs. And the landlord gets to avoid installing a piece of technology that destroys their yield. It is, in its own dysfunctional way, a perfect British compromise. So that is the state of the market. Stay liquid.